I am 63 years old, and I am holding a cracked plastic badge that used to open every door that mattered to me. Every single one. Corner offices, boardrooms with mahogany tables so polished you could see your own reflection staring back at you like a warning you were too busy to read. Conference halls where people stood up when I walked in. Security gates that clicked open the second I swiped this little rectangle of plastic and felt that tiny surge of power hum through my chest like a second heartbeat. This badge made me somebody. And 6 months ago, when my heart stopped beating for 2 minutes and 14 seconds on the floor of a ballroom in front of 200 people, this badge did absolutely nothing. It didn't call my son. It didn't hold my hand. It didn't beg God for one more chance on my behalf. It just sat there in my jacket pocket, cracked down the middle, while a stranger pressed his fists into my chest and tried to restart a life I had already wasted. So if you're watching this, if you're sitting somewhere right now with your own version of this badge, some title, some role, some position you've built your entire identity around, I need you to hear me clearly. It won't cross that door with you. Nothing you're chasing will. Let me tell you how I know. When I was 38 years old, I was untouchable. At least that's what I believed. I had a corner office on the 14th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a city I was convinced I was conquering. My name was on a brass plate outside my door. My lanyard had a stripe on it that most people in the building would never earn, and I wore it every single day, even when I didn't have to, because I liked the way people looked at me when they saw it. I liked the click. That was the thing nobody tells you about status. It's not the money, it's the click. That small, satisfying beep and release of a card reader granting you access to a room most people can't enter. I was addicted to that sound the way some men are addicted to applause. I smelled like expensive cologne at 5:30 in the morning. I carried a leather briefcase that cost more than my father made in a month. I had a reserved parking space with my name stenciled on a concrete wall, and every morning when I pulled into it, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I wasn't! I was supposed to be at my son's basketball games. He played point guard his freshman year. Did you know that? I didn't. Not until years later when his mother told me during one of those quiet, awful conversations where someone isn't yelling at you because they've moved past anger into something worse. Indifference. He would stand on that court before the game started and look up into the bleachers. Every single time, scanning the rows, looking for my face. I was never there. I missed his games because I had client dinners. I missed his birthdays because I had quarterly reviews. I missed my wife's birthday twice, and I didn't even have the decency to forget on my own. I had my assistant send flowers. She picked the arrangement. She wrote the card. My wife knew. She always knew. She could smell the automation in those roses from across the room. But I told myself it was fine. I told myself I was building something, providing, that the sacrifice was temporary and the reward would be permanent. I told myself that access equaled importance and importance equaled love. That if I climbed high enough, everyone beneath me would look up and be grateful. The lie was so clean, so efficient. It fit perfectly inside that badge, and I swiped it every day without question. You want to know when the badge stopped working? I'll tell you the exact moment. It was a shareholders' dinner. Annual event, black ties, crystal glasses, a ballroom with ceilings so high your voice echoed if you spoke above a whisper. I was 62 years old and I was standing at the podium, champagne glass raised, 200 faces looking up at me with that particular expression I had spent 3 decades chasing. Admiration, respect, Envy, maybe. I couldn't tell the difference anymore, and honestly, I had stopped caring which one it was as long as they were looking. I was mid-sentence, mid-toast. I remember the champagne catching the light from the chandelier above me, and I remember thinking, briefly, absurdly, that the light looked golden, and that golden things had always made me feel safe. Then my chest caved in. That's what it felt like. Not pain, not at first. Implosion. Like someone reached inside my ribs and squeezed everything into a fist. The glass slipped out of my hand, and I heard it shatter on the marble floor, and that sound, that delicate, almost musical shattering, was the last thing I heard before the silence. And then I was nowhere. I need you to understand what I mean by that. I don't mean I saw a tunnel. I don't mean I saw light, or angels, or my dead mother reaching for me from some golden doorway. I have heard people tell those stories. Maybe they're true. Maybe those people got a different door than I did. I got nothing. I got a black, airless room with no walls and no floor and no ceiling. And I was alone in it with nothing but an inventory of faces I had failed. My son, 14 years old, standing in that gymnasium, eyes scanning the bleachers one more time. Finding every face except mine. I could see the exact moment he stopped looking. The exact micro-expression when hope left his jaw and his shoulders dropped half an inch and he turned back to the court and told himself the thing I taught him to say. It's fine. I knew he wouldn't come. My wife, sitting at our dining room table at 7:15 on a Tuesday night, plate of food across from her, untouched. The television on in the other room, not because she was watching anything, but because the sound filled the silence I had carved into our home. She was 51 in that image, and she looked exhausted, not from work, not from illness, from waiting. From years and years of waiting for a man who had a reserved parking space and a brass nameplate and a badge with a special stripe, but couldn't find 20 minutes to sit across from her and ask how her day was. I saw these things in that void, not like a movie, like a verdict. And the worst part, the part that still wakes me up at 3 in the morning in an apartment so quiet I can hear the walls settling, is that I could hear my son's voice. Clear as a bell, clear as that champagne glass shattering on the marble. It's fine, Dad. I knew you wouldn't come. Then the paddles hit my chest, and the void spit me back out. The first face I saw was a paramedic, a stranger, a man whose name I never learned, who had just restarted my heart with his hands, who knew nothing about me except that I was a body on a ballroom floor. Not my son, not my wife, a stranger. And my lanyard was twisted around my neck, like it was trying to finish what my heart had started. That was 6 months ago. I live in a one-bedroom apartment now. The divorce was finalized while I was still in cardiac rehab, still learning how to walk up a flight of stairs without my pulse monitor screaming at me. She didn't fight. She didn't cry. She just signed the papers with the same quiet efficiency I used to admire in my best employees, and I realized she had learned it from me. I taught her how to leave without making a scene because I had been leaving without making a scene for 30 years. My son lives 11 miles away. He has visited once. He stayed exactly 30 minutes. We sat at my small kitchen table, the one that seats two but has only ever held one plate, and we talked about the weather, like strangers at a bus stop, like two people who share DNA and nothing else. And hanging on a nail by my front door, right where a key hook should be, is that cracked ID badge. I kept it not out of nostalgia, not because I miss what it represents. I kept it as evidence. Prosecution Exhibit A in the trial I hold against myself every single morning when I make 1 cup of coffee and drink it facing that badge. The company deactivated it 3 weeks after my medical leave began. 3 weeks! 30 years of my life poured into that building, and it took them 21 days to erase me from the system. They posted my position on a Monday. By Thursday, someone else was swiping into my office, sitting in my chair, looking out my windows at a city that never cared whose eyes were watching. I have a mug in my cabinet that says "World's Best Boss." I drink from it every morning, not because I believe it, because the cruelty of it keeps me honest. Now I need to talk to you, not the general you, not some abstract audience. You, the one watching this right now with your jaw clenched because something I said landed a little too close. You with the title in your Instagram bio. You with the LinkedIn profile you update more often than you call your mother. You rescheduling dinner with your kid for the 3rd time this month because something came up. Something always comes up. That's the trap. The something that comes up is always urgent, and the someone waiting at home is always patient until they're not. And you will not get a warning when their patience runs out. You will just come home one day to a table with 1 plate instead of 2, and a silence so loud it will eat you alive. I learned the cruelest math a human being can learn. I swiped that badge through 937 doors over 30 years. I counted once during a night when sleep wouldn't come and the clock on my wall was ticking loud enough to sound like a judge's gavel. 937 doors opened, and the one door that actually mattered, the thin, invisible line between being alive and being dead, between having time and having none, that door didn't take a badge. It didn't care about my title or my parking space or my brass nameplate or the special stripe on my lanyard. It just opened, and I went through it with nothing. You still have time. That's the thing I can't say without my voice breaking, because I almost didn't. And there are days when I'm not sure the time I got back is anything more than a chance to sit alone and understand exactly what I threw away. But you still have time. Go home early today, I mean it. Not tomorrow, not this weekend. Today, put your badge in your desk drawer, shut your laptop. Walk out of that building while the people you love are still waiting for you, while they're still scanning the bleachers, while they're still setting a plate across from theirs and hoping tonight will be different. Because they will stop waiting. I promise you they will stop. And the silence they leave behind is louder than any applause you will ever earn. I unclipped my lanyard this morning. I held that badge over the trash can by my kitchen counter, the small one with the foot pedal, and I stood there for a long time, feeling the weight of something that weighs almost nothing. Then I dropped it in. It didn't make a sound. 30 years of access, and it didn't even make a sound on the way down. Go home early today. They're still there, but not forever. I would know.